Back in 2012, when I was 4, me and my mom and stepdad lived in an apartment. All was good until one night. I went to sleep on the couch and my mom was in the chair. We were watching some boring show, so I dozed off. At around 2:30 a.m., I was woken up by something touching me, but it wasn't my mom. It was something in the couch. I started screaming and then the hand went away. My mom, who is now awake, ran to check on me. I told her what happened and she didn't believe me. She just told me to go back to bed. I told her I was afraid, so she stayed with me until my stepdad came back. Fast forward a few weeks later, one night I laid back on the couch. At around 1 a.m., something kept touching me again. I screamed and my mom and stepdad ran to check on me. I told them what happened again, and my mom again didn't believe me, but this time my stepdad did. Later on that night, me and my stepdad were on the 2 lazy boy chairs and were watching Family Guy. My stepdad dozed off and I was about to as well, but then something caught my eye. There were hands sticking out of the couch. I was so shocked I couldn't scream or yell for help. My stepdad woke and saw the blank expression on my face and saw what I was looking at. He sat there in shock just like me. The hands were waving and then we heard a voice. It said in a deep voice, "Want to hold my hand?" I screamed at the top of my lungs after it said that to me and my stepdad. We ran out of the living room and into my mom's room. We explained what happened, and my mom was in shock. We stayed at a motel that night. The next day, we went back to pack our stuff, and we left the creepy place. To this day, I still don't know what that was that me and my stepdad saw, but whatever it was, I know it was demonic, and I never want to see it again. My name is Zane. I was 5 years old when this happened. My father always took me to this doctor. I quote the word doctor because personally I don't think he was a real doctor. We went a lot, but mainly we went on the weekends. The place had all sorts of SpongeBob items laying around, and I was only a child there, but since I was so young I never entirely questioned it. The doctor was a tall black male who always wore a suit. Every time we went, it'd be the same thing. He'd take my blood, give me around 5 or 7 shots, and some shots I was even pinned down for. My dad and uncle were usually the ones who took me. My mother was never there. The room we went in for the so-called appointment would always be so weird and creepy. It always had extremely dull lighting. Now, before I continue, this place looked and felt like an actual prison. It was gray everywhere, and those barbed wire fences surrounding it. One way in, and one way out. When I started kindergarten, all of the visits were stopped. We never went again. Around the time I started middle school, my dad put that place down as my doctor and my emergency contact, even when that in fact was not my doctor's office anymore. To this day, my dad, uncle, and my mother, who was aware of these things that were happening, do not remember this place at all. I explained it to them thousands of times, some more detailed than others. It drives me insane that I'm the only one who remembers, and I can't remember the name since I was so young. So please be aware of your surroundings and who's with you. This is a story my grandmother told me when I was 9 years old, and it still gives me goosebumps. I love to listen to stories, even though I'd usually get scared. However, the story I'm about to explain is by far the scariest. There was once a boy, let's call his name Timothy. He had a habit of taking fruits and vegetables from the neighbor's garden along with his friends, Michael, Desmond, and John. They were always later scolded by their parents, but this habit didn't change. One day, they decided to steal from an old lady around 85 years old, which was the greatest mistake they made. The old lady had maize and fruits in the garden. Timothy jumped over the fence, and the others followed along. The old lady became alarmed by a thud coming from her garden, followed by the sounds of dry leaves whenever someone walks over them. The old lady remained on the spot, which was surprising as they could be murderers. Timothy and the gang began to harvest the fruits until they saw the silhouette. To their surprise, it wasn't the silhouette of a person, but something thin and broom-like. When they saw the creature in front of them, they were paralyzed. In front of them was a living scarecrow crawling from the fence into the garden. They couldn't run away because they were already stiff. It was then that it dawned on them. The old lady was actually a witch who killed her husband and created a scarecrow from his flesh. No one knows what the old lady did to the kids.